Brenda Adams is with me here in the studio at Alaska Matters Radio, and we're talking about her new book. It's called There's a Moose in My Garden, Designing Gardens in Alaska and the Far North. Brenda, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here with me. I love this book. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. So since you can't see it, I'm actually holding one of two copies known to exist for today. And it's beautiful. The cover is gorgeous. You see this amazing garden and gazebo, and in the background is the Kachemak Bay in the mountains. And then there's this really elaborate, I think, but yet beautiful cover. Brenda, how much, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but how much time does one spend designing a cover of a book?
In this case, quite a bit. And fortunately, I was able to work directly with the designer. Oftentimes, you have to work through the production editor. And because I am a designer too, she finally let go of the reins and let us talk together directly. And I'd say that we probably iterated it about 30 times.
Wow.
Back and forth, just kind of tuning this and trying that. And
well, it's worth it. I mean, this is, and the reason I bring it up so at the outset of the conversation is that I think your book, There's a Moose in My Garden, is not only practical, but beautiful. And was that by design?
Yes. Well, we wanted it to be beautiful. I certainly wanted it to be beautiful, and so did the University of Alaska Press, who's the publisher.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. How did that relationship start? So you're a gardener. You have Gardens by Design here in Homer, Alaska.
Right.
And obviously you are a writer. Must be.
Yeah,
here we are.
Yeah, we are.
So how did you go from being a gardener, being a business owner, an entrepreneur in Homer, to now you have a book with the University Press?
Well, I saw a need for the book that I discovered myself when I first started gardening in Alaska. I wanted to understand the different nature of the plants here, the different nature of the light, and get some guidance on growth rates and things that would work better here or not work so well here as compared to other places where I had gardened. And when I went on a search, I couldn't find a book about design. There was a good basic primer that was written by Lenore Hedla about in the early 90s that was available, and that was really it. And so there was not anything about design and designing gardens at our latitudes, and there still isn't. And so I decided that somebody had to write the book, so I figured it might as well be me.
So there's an axiom that says to succeed or find wealth, look for need and fill it, and that's exactly what you've done.
Yes, I hope so.
Whether wealth follows or not is probably besides the point. I mean, you wrote this for practical purposes, and this will live on. Well, yeah, you've made your mark. This is really neat.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've written the book. It's published. I'm holding, as I said, one of two. When will it be released to the public?
The official release date is August 15th of this summer, but it turns out that the Homer Bookstore will be the first bookstore in the world to have the book, and they will have it on August 3rd, and are being kind enough to host a signing for me. That Saturday the 3rd is a Saturday from 1 till 3. So starting August 3rd, you can actually put your hands on one, and if you come in during the signing, I'll sign it for you. But you can place orders right now, either with the University of Alaska Press on their website or with Amazon. It's already, they won't ship it to you until after the formal release date.
Tell me a little bit about the name, There's a Moose in My Garden. How'd you come up with that?
Well, there is always a moose in my garden. So it just, it's something that everybody says. Whenever you talk to a new gardener in Alaska, the first thing they say to you or ask, or almost the first thing is, what do you do about the moose? We all live with moose in our gardens. Even people that have walled gardens get moose in them from time to time. And so it's a reality. It really has a lot to do with the essence of gardening here. It's part of what you have to deal with. But it's also intended to make the book attractive and of interest to visitors to the state, because everybody's interested in our moose. And,
right.
And so there's a whole chapter, actually, that's practical for Alaskans about how do you deal with moose, what are the different barriers, how effective are they, and those kinds of things. But there are also funny stories about moose. There are lots of pictures of moose in it so that visitors will be attracted to the book as well.
And that's it. And I like gardening from a very sort of the edges of it. When I start to sweat, I lose. No. But seriously, I like gardening. I love the idea of gardening more than I actually do the gardening. But I look forward to one day spending more time in a garden and doing those things. And my family, in fact, we're putting together with my dad and my wife and my daughter and her husband, we're putting together a family garden on a piece of property that they've got. And we're all going in on it, and as far as the work and time and effort. And it just seems to me that we're entering an age, and maybe I'm wrong, and it's just because I'm there, but we're entering an age when it's becoming more and more important for whether you pick the word sustainability, whatever word you want to put in place of it, a placeholder in front of having your own garden makes a lot of sense, be it for practical purposes like growing vegetables or just relaxation and as a place to be in a state of zen.
It can be all of those things. In fact, in the early stages of the book, let me just step back for a moment. In the book, what I try to do is take people from through the entire process, from when you first have a notion of wanting a garden, all the way until it's finished, and you can pull up a chair and sit down with the beverage of your choice and enjoy the garden. But in that process, when I start talking to people, talking to my readers about designing their garden, I raise that question of why is it that you are going to do a garden? I think it's the first question you have to answer to yourself, and answer it honestly. And for some people, it is a Zen moment. I mean, when I garden, anything that's bothering me is out of my mind. It's just gone. But some people want to do it because they want to teach their children about plants. They want to grow food. And there's no reason why you can't have both an ornamental and an edible garden. And in fact, I talk about how those two can be mixed to really attractive results. But there are just a myriad of reasons why people want to have a garden. It is good exercise. It's a way to get outside and do something creative. It's a way to create beauty. It enhances your property. I mean, there are just a lot of things. It's a place for your family to gather. If you have a stressful job, it can be a place to retreat at the end of the day and relax. If you don't have a stressful job and you like to entertain, it's a great place to do that. So it serves a lot of purposes, and each person has a different reason or reasons why they might want to have a garden.
Not to give too much away about the book, there's a moose in my garden, but literally, is there a solution in an area like Alaska or elsewhere around the country where they have these kind of large animals? Is there a one-size-fits-all solution, or is it literally just you have got to be vigilant and keep the moose out? Because we're very paranoid about it right now with our vegetable garden. It's always on our mind.
Well, I don't think that there is a one-size-fits-all. For one thing, moose don't read very well. And so,
What?
So they don't know anything about these lists of the plants that moose eat last. I mean, there are such lists you can find, but if a moose is starving, it's going to eat just about anything.
Yeah.
And they're very creative. I mean, if you have a fully fenced yard and the fence is high enough and low enough, because they will go under a fence also, then you can have a little bit more freedom. But high enough is a really important thing to define, because in the wintertime, if we have a winter like we did, not this past one, but the year before, where the snow was so high, moose could just walk over what had been a 10-foot high fence because there was 5 feet of snow around it. So they can, they can jump quite high. So there are a lot of different approaches, but it turns out that you just have to be a little philosophical, because no matter what you do, eventually they're going to get you one day. And there's not, a fence is one thing. You can wrap with burlap shrubs and trees. I mean, moose primarily eat woody plants in the wintertime, and that's when they're most destructive, is in the winter. In the summertime, depending on where you live, if there's a lot of natural browse, they may not bother your garden, whether or not it's fenced. But in the wintertime, they're going to bother it because they can get close to starvation. In fact, they do starve, as we all know. So,
yeah, no, it's a serious deal. But again, a beautiful book, and it's practical, as I said earlier. And there seems to be, basically from start to finish, there's a way that one could grab this book, know nothing about gardening, and come away with a real sense, whether you're in our region or elsewhere around the country, a real sense of what it's all about.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you felt that way when you looked at it or read it, Chris, because that was one of my goals. It is, in its essence, a how-to book. But how-to books can be really dry, do this, do that.
Right.
It's very boring. So what I tried to do was write a book that reads like a novel, that has some humor in it, so that you have some kind of, fun moments of things that you can say, oh, yeah, that happened to me, or whatever. But you can sit there and read it like a novel from the beginning to the end and absorb the technical information that you need to be successful. So I wanted to teach how to do it, but I didn't want it to be dry. I wanted it to be fun. I want the book to draw people in and to be a pleasure, to be fun to read.
It's practical and beautiful, and I'm telling you, as a coffee table book, as a gift, it's really going to be a hit. I'm confident of that. There's a moose in my garden. Brenda, again, the date that you'll be at the Homer Bookstore for the world premiere launch of this book.
World premiere, that's given that I lived in Los Angeles 20-some years ago before I moved here, that's an interesting term. It is Saturday, August 3rd, from 1 to 3 p.m.
If I don't do anything else today, I'm gonna take a walk up by the creek, have him sing his song to me. I will find a shaded sunny spot, I'll pull out my guitar and sing a simple song for you and me. Something like ooh, la da 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 dum da da da, singing ooh, la da 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 da. Well, it seems there are lots of songs about those 18-wheeler trucks, CBs and disco dancing, spaceships and such. And there's always lots of songs that are about hugging and kissing. But there ain't nothing on the radio that's anything like this. And it goes, ooh.